Is time really just a big fat lie? Imagine your clock ticking away, not because time is passing, but because your brain is playing tricks on you. Yeah, you might think I've lost my marbles or that this is just some clickbait madness. But hold up. What if I can actually prove it? Imagine, something as fundamental as time, just an elaborate illusion? And all those cool stories about time travel, merely tales spun from pure fiction. If you're itching to find out how deep this rabbit hole goes, stick around till the end. I'm about to show you how your brain is the mastermind behind this whole time conspiracy. You've been living your life, ticking things off your to-do list, thinking time is as real as that expired yogurt in your fridge. But then, along comes this beast of a telescope, the James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, that is turning the scientific world on its head, especially when it comes to our understanding of time. Launched in December 2021, the JWST has been peering into the universe's most distant corners, capturing images that are billions of years old. With its super powerful infrared instruments, it's like the ultimate time machine, allowing us to see the universe as it was in the distant past. But these stunning images are not just eye candy. They're challenging our fundamental beliefs about the cosmos and, more intriguingly, about time itself. So is time fake? The findings from the JWST suggest that our conventional understanding of time, anchored by the Big Bang Theory, might be flawed. According to this theory, the universe began with a massive explosion about 14 billion years ago and has been expanding ever since. As the universe expands, galaxies should appear smaller and fuzzier because their light takes longer to reach us. But the JWST images are showing galaxies that are too small, too smooth, too old, and there are way too many of them. Let's break it down. If the universe is indeed expanding, distant galaxies should look like tiny dots, right? But what JWST is showing us are galaxies that appear about the same size as those near us. It's like expecting to see ants in the distance, but finding elephants instead. Even more perplexing, these galaxies are smaller and brighter, with higher redshifts indicating they're moving away faster than expected. For instance, a galaxy named GS2 is far brighter than the Milky Way, but has a radius of only 300 light-years compared to the Milky Way's 50,000 light-year radius. This challenges the idea of an expanding universe and suggests that these galaxies might have always been this size, if these galaxies didn't start small and merge over time. The supposed optical illusion of an expanding universe falls apart. This throws the Big Bang Theory into question, and by extension, our understanding of time itself. If the universe isn't expanding, then the timeline we've been using to measure the age and development of the cosmos might be wrong. So what does this mean for our perception of time? If the foundation of the Big Bang Theory is shaky, then our concept of time flowing from a cosmic beginning to now might be an illusion. The JWST findings suggest that time, as we've understood it, is not a straightforward arrow from the past to the future. It might be something far more complex and even illusory. So, you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, this telescope business is wild, but it's just a man-made gadget, right? It could be off its rocker. Well, what if I told you that the brainiest dude of the 20th century, Albert Einstein himself, tossed out some ideas that vibe with this whole time might be an illusion thing? Einstein came along with his fancy theory of relativity and turned the whole concept of time and space into a stretchy dance floor. Imagine space-time as a big, bouncy trampoline. When something hefty plops down on it, like a planet, it makes a dent. Smaller stuff rolls towards that dent. This fabric of space-time, according to Einstein, gets all stretchy and bendy with mass and energy. But if you can mess with this space-time fabric, what's that actually say about time? Is it as reliable as your morning alarm? Well, maybe not. Let's talk about this wild thing called the relativity of simultaneity. Einstein says that what's happening right now for you might not be the now for someone else zipping around at a different speed or in a different direction. Think about a train zooming along. There's a dude in the middle firing two guns, one towards the front and one towards the back. On the train, these bullets hit their targets at the same time. But if you were chilling on the station platform and saw this train whip past, you'd swear the back bullet hit first. No magic, just relativity doing its thing. And it gets weirder with another brain bender about the Andromeda Galaxy. You can think of two people walking past each other right here on Earth. Depending on their walking directions, they might see different nows happening way out in Andromeda. One might see aliens dispatching a fleet of ships while the other is like, nah, hasn't happened yet. It's all about where you are and how you're moving. This whole scenario flips the idea of time as this neat straight line from yesterday to today to tomorrow. If what happens now depends on where you're standing and how fast you're moving, then the whole concept of a universal now is kind of out there. Time turns out to be more like a river, flowing differently depending on where you dip your toes. It's not just today's lab coat-clad scientists stirring up doubts about time. Instead, philosophers have been scratching their heads over this for ages about whether time is real or not. Take Julian Barber, a British physicist who really shakes things up with his take on what we call now. Barber's all about these moments he calls Plutonia. It's like this vast landscape where every spot is a unique now. According to him, this idea of time flowing smoothly is just our brains playing connect the dots with these moments to make it feel like time's moving. Barber goes a step further, suggesting that our sense of the past is just our brain's highlight reel. We think we have a past because we remember stuff, but really, each moment is its own thing, not tied to the next. It's kind of like flipping through a photo album. Each picture is separate. They don't flow into each other, they just sit there on their own. Now let's get into the block universe theory. This is a head spinner rooted in Einstein's ideas, where time is just another dimension, like up or down, left or right. Imagine the universe as a gigantic cosmic DVD collection. Every scene exists all at once. The idea here is that time doesn't really pass. It's all already laid out. Our life is like a DVD player laser, reading the disc, creating the illusion that scenes follow one another. And then there's Max Tegmark, an MIT physicist who really drives it home. He says, consider reality as a static four-dimensional space. Nothing changes, it just is. According to him, what we think of as time flowing is just our brain's way of making sense of things. You can either see reality as a three-dimensional space where stuff happens over time, or a four-dimensional space where everything just exists, frozen in eternity. Whether it's from the science side or the philosophical angle, both boils down to one sneaky culprit, and that is our own brains. Now let me prove it with some solid proofs. Dean Buonamano, a big shot in the neuroscience world, calls the brain a time machine. No, not the kind you see in sci-fi movies zipping back to the dinosaurs or forward to flying cars. His idea is all about how our brains handle time on the inside. According to Buonamano, our brains are like fortune tellers, always predicting the future to keep us one step ahead. This whole prediction game is built right into our brain's wiring. Buonamano says that making these predictions based on what we've experienced before helps us react swiftly and smartly, which is super handy for thriving in this crazy world. Now, if you want a wild ride into how malleable our sense of time can be, check out some isolation experiments. Take Michel Siffre, a French geologist who decided to live in a cave for half a year. With no sunrises or clocks to guide him, his internal clock went bonkers. His days stretched to 32 hours of being awake, followed by 16 hours of snoozing. Then there's Clive Waring, a British musicologist whose life got turned upside down by a brain infection. It wiped out his hippocampus, that's the memory-making part of the brain, leaving him stuck in an eternal now. Every few seconds, his memory resets, making each moment feel like he's just snapped awake for the first time. He keeps a diary, but it's full of entries saying he's just woken up. Imagine living in a loop where every moment is like a brand new morning. So if by now you're kind of buying into the whole time is a big brain trick idea, you might be scratching your head about why we can't stop gabbing about time travel. Why are all these scientists chugging coffee into the sleep hours, trying to crack time travel if time's just an illusion, right? So according to Einstein, zipping into the future is not just a plot for a movie. It's theoretically possible. If you somehow managed to travel at speeds close to light, time would start crawling for you, compared to everyone else chilling back on Earth. This is called time dilation, and it's not pure theory. We've seen this happen with fast-moving particles and even with astronauts, though just by tiny bits. But the real head spinner is the idea of going back in time. Enter the concept of wormholes. These are like secret tunnels through space-time that could maybe let you hop back to the past. But here's where it gets tangled. If you scoot back and mess with things like ensuring your grandparents never meet, you might erase your own ticket to the present. And then there's the wild card, the Big Crunch theory. It says if the universe's expansion ever hits reverse and starts to shrink, time might literally run backward. Imagine everything rewinding. from your morning coffee sip to your first embarrassing school memory. We've also got theories that play with the idea of the universe doing an eternal cosmic yo-yo act, expanding and contracting over and over in what's called the Big Bounce. In each cycle, time could behave differently, suggesting that while each loop might go from start to finish, the grand cosmic clock could be ticking eternally through these cycles, potentially spinning off new universes or alternate realities each time. If time travel to the past were actually doable, it would shake up everything we think about actions and consequences. Like, is everything that happens just a rerun? And if every choice spins off a new timeline, then maybe there's a version of you out there who never had to make those cringeworthy hairstyle choices. On the flip side, traveling to the future seems a bit more straightforward but still mind-bending. It hammers in the point that time isn't this steady, ticking force we all sync our watches to. It's more like a stretchy, squishy thing that science says we can squeeze and stretch based on how fast we're moving and the gravity we're under. Now don't go blurting out at the dinner table that time is fake and punctuality is a conspiracy, unless you're aiming for a one-way ticket to the mental asylum. Hide this mind-melting reality in the deepest corners of your heart because the world isn't ready for such revelation.